to the latest episode of Green and Growing. I'm your host, Wade Perry of the Perry Properties Group at EXP. And today I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming a dear, dear friend of mine, Cheryl Hadley, the founder and president of Organization and Relocation. And as you can imagine, in the real estate space, one thing is true. You're going to move, whether you're buying or whether you're selling. And today we're going to dig deep into some of the best practices. We're going to talk about Organization and Relocation as a company, what they do, why you should consider them. And Cheryl's probably got a little secrets at the end, so you might want to stay tuned until the very end. That might make your next move a little bit simpler. Cheryl, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Wade.
So, Cheryl, you and I have known each other formally for about 10 years, maybe a little more. But we have mutual friends that go back 40 and 50 years. I feel like I've known you that long. And being in the same industry, we've had the opportunity to help each other along the way. And if you would, give us a little background on Organization and Relocation. When did you start, and how did it all happen?
Well, I was perplexed on what to do at the end of 2004, and I went to help a friend pack his house because I was really sad he was leaving Colorado. And I walked into the house and there was trash and his shoes everywhere. So all we did was pick up shoes and pick up trash for 2 hours. I didn't put one thing in a box. And I came home and I thought, this would be a fun business. I thought I was very original. I called a friend and said, I want to organize people and move them. And we went to a restaurant and literally sat at a bar, and she wrote on a napkin, Organization and Relocation. And then I flapped my big fat mouth and I had my first client mid-January of 2005. So we'll be 20 next January.
So 20 years began on the back of a napkin sitting at a bar. I mean, and I've heard, you and I both have heard numerous stories of businesses that start just this way.
Yeah.
Help the audience understand, what does Organization and Relocation do? It's easy to say, oh, you organize me and you relocate me, but it's much more than that. Share with us, what does Organization and Relocation do, and how many people do you have?
We have about 20 employees.
Wow.
Yeah. And we literally will do everything from start to finish. A client does not have to call a mover, doesn't have to put a thing in a box or take a thing out of a box when we are moving them. We like to be the central point of contact because it's less chaotic. And the goal is to streamline the move and minimize the stress. Because when you're moving, and you know this with your clients, life doesn't stop, business doesn't stop. The kids don't stop wanting things, needing things, but you still have to move, and moving is a full-time job. It's the third biggest stressor behind death and divorce, but when you are moving, that is your biggest stressor. Ooh, excuse me.
Well, that's okay.
So after the first meeting with a client, if they give us the go-ahead, we do all the coordination, set up all of the logistics, build the teams. We even, with our recommended movers, will request certain people to be on those projects.
Okay. Let me ask you this. In literally what you just outlined, because when we take people through this from the real estate perspective, we tell them that, moving is an expensive pain in the butt, and you have to have a really good reason to do this. And there's a lot of emotion that goes into it on our end that's more tied to money. How much is my house going to sell for? How much will I have left after I pay things off, et cetera? From your standpoint, it's the logistics of, how do I pack up a home that was 3, 5, 15, 20 years of accumulation? And it could be heirlooms and family stuff. And they think, oh, we'll just move. What do you think the biggest surprise is that people encounter when you meet with them?
That also depends on the client, actually.
Okay.
And so if somebody has not gone through their home for 20 years, that tells me that they think everything is valuable. when there's really a market value and there's a personal value.
Mm.
So you want to tread lightly. You want to build the trust to ideally have the client get rid of it, because why do you want to pay to pack it, pay to move it, pay to unpack it, and pay to get rid of it? That's 4 times the paying for something. And a lot of people move that way 10 times.
So would you say, go ahead.
We had a client about 15 years ago, and he wanted to get rid of everything. She didn't want to let go of anything. And they were those people that had moved 5, 6, 7 times and across the country without getting rid of anything. And I would say we cut them back about 50%, but that took 6 months. So one of the values of our service is pre-move prep, a term I should have trademarked. And we will go in and sort and categorize by room the belongings, then bring the client in for decision making. And it is much easier to make a clear decision when somebody else has sorted and categorized it for you, because you see things in a different way. Sure. I know this from my own personal experience hiring my own organizers. And then I tell the same stories that my clients tell, and nobody wants to hear them actually, because you just want to get organized.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I think about this, because we like to share with people, and you bring up a really good point about categorizing them all and bringing them all together. What I've advised to people is that why would you pay to move something just to get rid of it? So we like to advise to them, go buy 3 different colors of Post-it notes, and you're going to sticky things that this is coming with me, this I'm throwing away, and this I'm either giving away or selling away. But you take it another step by then bringing all of those items and putting them together in one place, so they get reinforced that, oh, this is the giveaway pile or the sell pile, and you then walk them through it. What you're doing is incredibly valuable from an emotional standpoint, because you're not attached to the physical item, but they might be. And so you are providing an incredible service for that. And a lot of people, I don't think, understand that you cannot put a dollar amount on somebody being able to take you through, almost like a therapist, and help them get through the slog. And that's worth a lot of money. And I don't think people understand what that's worth, because otherwise they would sit there on their house for weeks and months and never make any progress.
Well, you freeze up. Yeah.
What's that?
You freeze up. And you took the words out of my mouth. The therapist said to me once, when I would complain about the cost of it, she said, "This is an investment in your future." And so I tell clients, no, it's not cheap, but you're making a choice on getting organized. Is that valuable to you? It's an investment in your future. It's an expense and it's an investment.
I think the one thing that people probably don't realize, and maybe you can elaborate on this, but when people come to work with organization or relocation, you're not only providing peace of mind, but when you think about the dozens, maybe even hundreds of hours that they would spend just trying to go through and parse their stuff, let alone pack it and move it, how much time do we get on this planet? It's never enough. And would you trade, your last days for a couple of nickels to have it back and not have your head in a cardboard box? Do your clients come to you and acknowledge that this is a huge time saver for them?
Oh, yeah. Time is money. Money is time, I tell them. And I've calculated over the years that if we give an estimate for 3 people, 8 hours, so that's 24 hours a day of our people, 24 times 3 is 72. It's a minimum 3 times longer, probably 5 times longer, if you actually even get started, because there are distractions. The kids call, you get a work call. Oh, I got to go to lunch. Oh, I have an appointment, whatever it is. When you make the choice to make the investment, you're also making the commitment to go through it and get it done.
I think that what you guys provide from a time standpoint and a peace of mind standpoint is invaluable, because I don't know anybody in the hundreds of homes that we've sold that has said, boy, I can't wait to do that again.
Right.
And even though they love the new house that they're in, they love the new beginnings, that's all the freshness and the newness, but the actual process of trying to
Yeah.
unload stuff, pack it up, get it moved, in addition, as you very appropriately said, to the rest of life, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have much time anyway, let alone the time for this. So I want to step back just a moment, because when you started your company, Organization and Relocation, 20 years ago, was there even an industry for this back then?
There was.
There
And
was, okay.
I had no idea. I actually Googled and found NAPO, the National Association of Productivity and Organizers. They've changed their name in the last 10 years. And so I found a meeting in Denver and went to it and participated in that. And I learned a lot, and you connect with other professionals, but it was very small in 2005. Organizing industry, I think it was 1984, was founded by Julie Morgenstern, who I call the queen of organizing. She's still the ultimate and written the best books. One of her most famous is Organizing from the Inside Out. And it's how really the inside of you, your mental space, correlates to your physical space.
Well, I'm writing that down. Organizing from the Inside Out.
It's a great book. It's something that we tell our organizers to read when they're onboarding. There are lots of other books out there, but I think foundationally, it's the best.
So would you agree that when you look around our society here in America, and one of the larger segments of construction out there is storage facilities, and I think everybody could benefit from a read of Organizing from the Inside Out.
And storage facilities, unless you are in between homes, is money you throw away.
Yeah, it's a total waste of money. Now, so 20 years ago you started, there was an industry. The industry has grown, no doubt. And as you mentioned in the beginning, I asked you, what does Organization Relocation do? We come in, we help you get rid of stuff, we help you organize it, we pack it, we move it, we unpack it, we reorganize it, etc. Why should somebody choose Organization and Relocation versus, say, one of your competitors?
Well, for the moving aspect, as far as I know, we are the only people in Colorado, and we work nationally and internationally as well, that do everything from start to finish, managing every little aspect of the move. And
so other companies will do the organizing, but then they leave it up to you, meaning the client, to find the mover?
Yes.
How important is it that you have the organizer and the mover in the same team? How significant is that?
I think it's critical. Because
Has there been... Go ahead.
What was that? Well, the movers, one of them I've worked with for 20 years.
Wow.
I actually, two guys that were on my very first relocation ever actually worked directly for us on an unpack a couple months ago, and they were awesome. And these guys know how we work, because we throw a wrench in the movers process. Movers actually, I think, get a bad rap. Their job is to put it in a box as quickly as possible. Just because it's a bar of soap and it's found in the living room, the movers are not responsible to move that to the bathroom. That's an organizer's job or the client's job. So
that's a really good point.
People forget that. Oh my God, I can't believe the movers packed this with that. I said, that's their job. I can't believe they packed the trash. You have to empty your trash can. So we actually have a pre-list that we send to clients. Empty your trash cans, do your laundry. And if they don't, fine, whatever, but we sent the list in how to prep for the move, especially if we're not doing the packing, which some people don't always want the packing. That's okay too. We don't do everything. If a client doesn't want that, we will do just what they want done. So our job is to organize it and make sure like items are with like.
So have you ever seen or have you heard about, because it would not happen with organizational relocation, have you ever heard of say nightmare stories where people had you organize it or pack it, but then they hired some other mover or they didn't hire you guys at all, and then you found out later from them that they really made a mistake by not hiring you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What tell share with everybody what's a disaster look like if someone decides they're going to pack it themselves and hire a mover?
We have examples that they put all the boxes in front of cabinets and drawers. So we literally have spent 90 minutes moving boxes, and that's 6 people. And that's 90 minutes of 6 organizers being paid to move boxes that, had we been there on top of it, we would have said, this is where the kitchen boxes go. These are where the bathroom boxes go. To the point
So
of
somebody wasted 10 hours of billable time.
yeah,
That right there is a
that happens a
proxy
lot.
as to why people should want to hire organization relocation.
Yeah,
Because you streamline the process. You've seen the mistakes that people make that get in the way, that take things longer, that make the unpacking harder. And I think if I'm hearing you correctly, it really starts in the very beginning of helping them declutter and get rid of stuff so there's less to pack, and then to organize it in such a way that when it is packed, the mover that is part of your team, it's easy for them to come get, stack, and move efficiently. And when it gets to the new home, it unpacks efficiently. And
yeah,
you're the one unpacking it for them.
right. And that's not to say there aren't challenges. And I always tell clients in the first meeting, we will make a mistake, but we will fix it because it's moving. It is the movers do get a bad rap. Can you imagine taking a sofa in and out of a doorway every single day?
I don't do it every day. I do it more often
You
in
do.
staging than
Yeah.
I would choose to admit. And some of my own furniture has been moved into people's houses. And
Yeah.
I have a couch in my house that I just dread. Whenever Lori says we're going to take that, and I want to curl up and cry. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and the concept is becoming more and more clear to me that moving is something that is messy. It is
Yeah.
time consuming and it is tiring.
Yeah.
You combine all those three and it's not something that people look forward to.
Yeah.
And they're only going to do it a handful of times in their life. Yet you and your team, how many jobs will you typically do in a month?
That depends, but
Okay.
anywhere.
How about in a year?
Summer is typically busier because people move after Memorial Day, before Labor Day. They want to move after school and be settled before school. And sometimes if we have a really big project, which we do often, in the summer, we average 1 to 3 relocations a week.
Okay. So conservatively, you could say between 25 and 50 moves a year.
Yeah.
So that means you have moved somewhere in the range of 800 to 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And over the 20 years, think of it. You've probably helped between 800 and 1,000 people move.
Yeah.
When the average person moves maybe 5 times in their life,
yeah,
maybe it makes sense to hire the expert, somebody that's maybe seen a couple of better ways to pack, a couple of better ways to move. So that right there is a screaming endorsement as to why people should call you guys.
And seeing the transformation of a client being really stressed, and that bleeds out into their family, the children, the pets, all of it. And the difference, ideally, we start on a Monday and end on a Friday. Sometimes our relocations are 2 weeks because they have that much stuff. But ideally, it's Monday through Friday. And the personalities all shift.
I can only imagine. I mean, we're on the real estate side of what you do, and we see personalities change of some of our close friends that, all of a sudden you're talking about a lot of money on the line, and people change. And I'm
Yeah.
saying they change for the worse. It's just a shift because the dynamic is different. And you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. That trickles down to the pets, to the kids, etc.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, um, you've given us the kind of the broad strokes of, we do everything from soup to nuts, and nobody else really does that. And that allows there to be greater efficiencies, less loss, and just a smoother process.
Mm-hmm.
And people may think, oh, maybe it costs a little bit more to do it that way, but does it cost more when you consider the additional hours, frustration, maybe things got broken, etc.? I don't think it
Yeah.
does cost more when you equate the whole picture. So
No,
with
because
that,
this is your mental health at the same time.
boy, and don't we all need some more of that?
Yeah.
So let's dig a little deeper. What does the process look like? I call you up and say, hey, Lori and I want to talk to you about moving. What's the first appointment look like?
First appointment is to do an assessment with you and Lori and walk through the house. And I'm looking for your reactions to certain areas of the house and asking what your priorities are. And then we build it from there. I'm looking for
Okay.
where the stressful areas are, really, and how
Interesting.
decrease that stress.
Okay.
Then we bring a mover in. So sometimes the mover comes to the first meeting with us. Ever since COVID, we often get calls for relocations that are 14 days in advance when it used to be 6 months in advance.
Oh,
Yeah, that all changed during COVID. And now it's still, it has bumped back out more, but in the last couple of months, we've had a lot of relocations in like 2 weeks where it's a quick
wow.
close, or they didn't know about us and they just found out about us.
Okay.
So
So
we
yeah,
do the walkthrough.
6 months is easier, but 2 weeks is tough. So you go through the walkthrough. Mover may or may not be with you.
Yeah. Do the walkthrough, assess the client needs. All estimates are based on the amount of stuff. So people will ask me on the phone, I have a 5,000 square foot house. I said, I can't tell you what it's going to cost because the house next door to you can be 5,000 square feet and have 3 times the amount of stuff you have.
Right.
And that's not fair to the client either, because you're always going to remember the low number, not the high number. I'm sure you've had some experience with that.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do the walkthrough, then the mover does their estimate. Movers send us the estimate, we create ours, and then if it's one of our recommended movers, and to just so we're all on the same page, we recommend movers. We don't select the mover for the client. The
Got it.
client always chooses the movers, and we recommend 2 estimates.
Good.
We have more than 2 movers, but we have our 2 favorites because they know how we work.
Right.
And that is a huge time saver. Then we send the estimate, then we talk through the, some people immediately approve it. Other people, we go have a little bit of back and forth and prioritize the needs and work it out that way. And maybe they decided they want to add 3 things or take away 3 things. It is all strictly based on the needs of the client. And then we confirm dates and start moving forward. Ideally, somebody has us for pre-move prep, but sometimes people do that themselves. They're just on a mission, and that's easier for them.
What should people do to prepare for a first appointment with you?
Nothing.
Somebody contacts you and says, hey, Cheryl, we're going to be moving. We talked to Tom and Sally. They love you.
Yeah.
What do you tell them to do so that when you arrive, that first appointment is really efficient?
Nothing, because we just want to walk through and see how they live.
Interesting. So this really does make their life about as smooth and simple as it can be. We're going to come and see you in your natural habitat. We're going
That's
to
right.
walk through the house with you. We're going to identify where your stressors are, which then allows you the opportunity to provide your services to alleviate those stressors. You're going to bring in the mover. You're going to provide estimates for yourself, estimates for the mover, so
Yep.
that they can analyze it, review it, and then you'll walk them through it and discuss it if they choose to. Sometimes they'll just sign it right away. So
Well,
now,
and can I
yeah,
interject one thing here?
absolutely.
Because what's really important, because it is such a big stressor, is to build the trust. And that starts on the first phone call, but really it happens in the in-person meeting. And because, as I say, we're in your underwear drawer 45 minutes after we meet you, because our assessments are 45 minutes. And we're right into the personal stuff.
Wow.
I do have good stories, but we can't talk
Nope.
about them.
This is a family audience where we run a PG show here.
That's
okay.
Right.
I as a realtor,
Those
I've
were
never
surprises.
seen. Yeah, as a realtor, I've never seen anything odd in people's houses ever.
No. Yeah.
So now they've signed off and they've said, okay, great. We've agreed upon the following services and it's go time.
Yeah.
And so depending on the size of the house, you will show up with how many people show up on moving day?
Well, it depends on the size of the house.
Sure.
And it actually depends on the amount of stuff in the house and the size of the house. Anywhere from 4 people to 8 organizers.
Wow.
And same with movers.
Okay.
On moving day, there are always more movers.
Yeah. Do you recommend when you and your team show up and if it's a week-long project, and more than likely you're organizing on Monday and Tuesday, maybe you're packing on Wednesday, part of Thursday, then the movers are coming. Do I got it right or wrong?
We pack on Monday.
Okay.
The loading happens on Tuesday. And this is a 5,000 square foot house with a lot. You can't load and unload in the same. You can. That is really bad. So you load on Tuesday and unload on Wednesday. We have strategies that we implement that we can bring our team in anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes after the movers start.
Okay.
And start unpacking. So that's a chaotic day, but we're used to it and we love it.
Do you recommend that the homeowner be present during the packing, or do you really say, look, it's best go take a day, go to the mountains, enjoy, let us do this, or do you want them there?
Well, we can recommend that you're not there, but that's really the preference of the client.
We tend to agree. We just think
that comes from trust too.
Yeah.
So we've had people that say they're going to be there the whole time and they see us in action and they're like, wow, I'm leaving. I'm going to the mountains. Or we only want you for 2 days to unpack. And midway through the first day, there's no way we can do this after you leave. Can you stay or come back or whatever it is?
The sudden realization that I need you.
And that happens a lot.
And so in the beginning, I would imagine, because this is a service that people they don't go buy this like they buy bread or milk or orange juice. Right. And they really don't have any idea what this costs. And I would imagine, because we're talking about 4 to 8 people for numerous days, this is not an inexpensive process. But I would also say you can't afford not to engage this process for the reasons we mentioned earlier: time, emotion, etc. And I'm going to guess that there is a certain percentage of people that are a little reticent, a little hesitant when they hear the number and they think, okay, because the last time they did it all themselves and it doesn't cost them anything, or so they think.
Right.
And let's now fast forward and it's move-in day and they see how you're organizing their house and how seamless it is and how you literally are making this look smooth and easy. Because I've actually been to one of your organization moments and it's pretty impressive to see all the worker bees moving around. do they get to a point typically where that concern over expense just disappears and they think, oh my God, this was one of the best things we ever did?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That has happened many times. Many,
That's
and those are the people that maybe have become lifetime clients, and we will go back every 3 months because they've got young children and the toys are rotating and they need the help.
and
Oh
you've had people hire you on numerous occasions.
yeah, oh yeah, I think the most I've moved somebody is 7 times in 20 years.
Okay, if somebody is calling 7 times for
Yeah,
you to move them, that means they had 6 opportunities to fire you
yeah,
or to choose to do it themselves,
yep.
and yet they didn't. That tells me that what you provide is worth every penny. It's worth
And
every
with this
penny.
client, he did have a couple issues on one move, and we talked him through, we worked him out. I learned a lot actually about what not to do again because I didn't actually know what had happened. And it's just because we make a mistake doesn't mean we're not going to get hired again.
Sure, you're human, and let's face it, it's moving. It happens.
It's moving, but it was a win-win. He got what he needed and we learned something, and he's hiring us again and again.
That is Well, that tells me that my dad used to say that the greatest assets of every business go up and down every day in
Yeah,
the elevator. It's the people that make the business. And
that's
if
right.
somebody's hiring your company a second time, a third time, heck, 7 times, that
Yeah,
tells me you've got a great team, you got great leadership, you know your value, and you enjoy pouring into people to make their life easier. This is a labor of love. You just don't wake up and say, I want to move today,
you're
right?
right.
And yet you choose to do it every week.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Well,
And
you're making people happy, like
yeah,
watching them transform. And we had a client with these 2 children who wouldn't speak to us, and the house was an absolute disaster, one of the biggest disasters I've ever seen in 20 years. And this is at least 15 years ago. By the end of the first relocation with them, the kids were so much happier. And when we came back to move them the next year, because they were building a house, the children told the organizers where to put things.
ah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I realize that you really can't share some of your clientele because they are quite notable. And I'm not going to ask you to, but safe to say that you have moved Fortune 500 CEOs. You have moved athletic directors of prominent universities. You've moved prominent coaches of college teams. True.
Quarterbacks,
Okay, quarterbacks too. So
running backs,
people that
baseball.
have complex situations. They've got very, very busy lives,
Yeah.
and they typically will have a lot of stuff. Who is your target client? The client that really benefits from what you do. What does that client typically look like? Is that going to be your college graduate that needs to move out of their 1 bedroom because they're moving into their 2 bedroom with their new boyfriend or girlfriend? Is it
Yeah.
a family? Is it a big complex CEO? Who's your target? Who do you serve best?
Typically, what we've noticed is about a $2 million house. 20 years ago, it was 1 million.
Right.
However, because we can do a la carte, we want everyone to be able to do what they can do. So we will tell someone who may not be the typical clientele, but really needs our service and understands the value, and they want to spend their money on this. We say, don't hire us for the entire move. You have the movers do the packing. That is cheaper. It's not as organized. And we will come in and unpack you for 2 days or 3 days. And then you don't have all of the other costs. You don't have the coordination costs. You don't have our packing costs. Do the pre-move prep yourself. And then they still get a value. They
Boy,
still get
that
the
is a
value.
great option. That's a
Yeah.
great option.
And we
Because the
have
hardest part is you get to your new house and there are people that are still in boxes 3 months later.
the average unpack, if you don't use an organizer, is 182 days, which is over 6 months.
Woo!
Yeah.
And for you to have it, you basically, they are now set up in a way that they can establish routines in their new house within a week instead of 6 months.
Uh-huh.
There's
And we
the
set those,
real value.
that's part of the unpacking and organizing, is setting up the system of organization to create the routine. I had to move out of my house last year, and I know what I'm doing. And I can't imagine moving back in without a team, because it was also summer, so we were in full swing, and I'm working on projects trying to move back into my house. Organizers are real people too, and they need help.
Interesting. So at the end of the day, $2 million house typically comes with enough stuff that merits all that you guys do. However, that's not a line in the sand criteria.
No.
All of you out there that are watching and listening should pay attention that one of the real values of this is having Cheryl and Organization and Relocation come and organize your new house so that you can get back to the business of life. And if the budget doesn't allow you to hire all the services, just focus on that service, and Cheryl and her team will do a great job for you. Let's move towards the end of this, and let's come up with 3 tips. What should people know about packing and moving that they don't know?
Purge first. Do not think that you are going to purge and pack at the same time. Every single one of my friends who's called me over the 20 years, I'm going to purge and pack at the same time. And then I get these crying calls. I didn't get either done. Yes, I know. You're either packing or you're getting rid of stuff.
So purge first.
Purge first, and take 5 minutes a day and purge. 10 minutes. Set yourself a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and have a like grocery bag or a trash bag, and stay in one room and walk around that room. You will get kind of fired up that you'll do it for 15 minutes.
Sure.
And then you're slowly breaking down the barrier of stress.
Okay. So first tip, purge first. Do it one room at a time.
Yep.
Set a timer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yep. And if you end up going longer, go longer. What's another tip?
And be organized. Like, have a plan.
Elaborate.
Meaning, hire your movers. I do still talk to a lot of people that are going to do it themselves. You'd have to go to the truck rental place. You got to find people to help you move who are not experts, that don't know how to wrap furniture, don't know how to load the truck. Something falls over in the truck, something falls over in the pod. Don't hire pods unless you think it's the best thing ever. We don't love them. That's where the most damage has occurred. Yeah.
I've heard that. Purge first, have a plan. A plan that incorporates, okay, when are we going to be purged? When are we going to be packed? Who's going to be the mover? Are they showing up at that day? So, and it needs to be, you can't plan on the fly. You can't plan halfway across the river, right?
No.
Okay. So
we
purge
can,
first.
Because we do it. We're not emotionally involved.
You've done 1,000 of these. So purge first, have a plan. Anything else?
Defer to the expert.
Defer to the expert. I wonder if I could find an expert in organizing and relocating.
Yes.
You.
That's right.
It's funny. I think that so often in life, people will look at something that, like moving, think, oh, I moved when I left college. I moved when I moved an apartment, and maybe they haven't moved in 10 years. Like, oh, we've done it before. I don't want to do it, but I've done it. you can do it. You can get all of the stuff from
Yeah.
point A to point B, but it might be broken. It's going to take you longer. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to fight with your spouse. You might lose a child. Kidding. So
Well, people have lost pets before. Yes.
So purge first,
Yep.
have a plan, and
Yep.
defer to the expert.
And defer to the expert. And also, when we're doing the soup to nuts coordination, and even if we're not, we want to be the ultimate resource for people. We recently had a client that asked us to find a water filtration system for them. Well, we didn't have one, but we found it.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you're a partner in this whole thing.
We
That's
are
awesome.
a partner, and we want to be the ultimate resource. Call us for anything, and if we don't know the answer, we'll find it.
Well, we've gone about 30 minutes, and I think we should probably wrap this up. But I wanted to thank you. You have given the world a much better picture of the pitfalls of moving. And the thing that I would probably tell all the listeners out there is don't be afraid to move. Defer to the expert.
Yep.
Hire somebody like Cheryl. Hire us. We work together. We can help you. We can help make your life smoother and easier through a process that, as Cheryl shared with you, is the third biggest stressor that's out there.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you could either do it yourself. It takes longer. It's more emotionally draining, and it will cost you more in the terms of time, energy, and emotion. Or you can defer to the expert who will have a plan and will help you purge and will take care of you from soup to nuts. It's easy to understand, Cheryl, why you have so much repeat business. And I would encourage any of you that are listening that if you're considering a move, call Cheryl early in the process. She can do it in 2 weeks, but I think we'd all agree, Cheryl, you could do it better if you had a little bit longer.
Yes.
So, Cheryl, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, we have a website, Organization and Relocation.com. And then also our Instagram, which is org_relo, RELO. And then our phone number, because we love phone calls, 303-448-9966.
What was that number again?
303-448-9966. Hey, and I want to say one thing about social media, because that has transformed the organizing industry. And we will just go in and organize a home. You see lots of pretty perfect pictures. That is reality and not reality at the same time. And it also looks like it takes no effort to get there when it takes days and hours. And I've seen some of these organizing shows when they say the client's coming back in 90 minutes. And I looked at the room, I'm like, that is 16 hours of work for 4 organizers. It doesn't happen in 90 minutes.
No.
Yeah.
No. We have a phrase for that in the real estate world, and we just won't use that because it's a PG show. But it's not it's not reality. It's a false sense of what it should look like. And I think you'd agree.
It is. There's reality.
Any last words you want to share?
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Cheryl, you're a dear friend, and I think what you guys do is invaluable, and I think that more people would benefit from you. I hope that they pick up the phone, they give you a call, they share your name, they come and look at you on Instagram. I know I get tips from your Instagram feed on a regular basis. I love your email newsletter that I get on a regular basis, and yes, we do use that with our clients. So for everybody out there, thank you for watching this episode of Green and Growing with Cheryl Hadley of Organization and Relocation. When it's time for you to make your next move, give Cheryl a call, hit her up on her website. They'll come out and they'll tell you if you're being real or not, and they'll make your life a lot smoother. In the meantime,
right. And we have a fabulous team.
Yes, you will, of course. Otherwise, people wouldn't keep hiring you.
That's
so
right.
Until next time, cheers to Green and Growing. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Green and Growing. I'm your host, Wade Perry of the Perry Properties Group at EXP.